Manufacturers of medical devices are responsible for creating and maintaining detailed technical documentation that covers all aspects of the device's lifecycle, from design and development to risk management and post-market surveillance. This session provides an overview of the technical documentation requirements for medical devices, guiding manufacturers from design to post-market surveillance. Manufacturers of medical devices are responsible for creating and maintaining detailed technical documentation that covers all aspects of the device's lifecycle, from design and development to risk management and post-market surveillance. In this module, we will look at the requirements on technical documentation as stated in MDR IVDR. We'll review the key content of what to include in your documentation using a risk-based approach, as well as discuss the benefits of having a lifecycle approach to maintaining compliance through documentation in your QMS. Annex 2 of the MDR and IVDR outlines the key components required in the technical documentation for a medical device. It covers everything from a detailed description of how the device works all the way through to post-market monitoring of device performance and the user experience. These requirements apply to all medical devices. To help us understand what this could look like, we'll use the example of a smartwatch app that measures heartbeats, letting users with heart conditions monitor their status. And remember, the technical documentation components that we'll cover is relevant for all medical devices, including software and apps that serve a medical purpose. First, a detailed device description of the smartwatch app is required, including its intended purpose and the target user population. In our example, this information could sound something like this. The smartwatch app is designed to monitor and analyze heart rhythms to detect irregularities such as atrial fibrillation. It aims to provide users with real-time health insights and alerts to potential heart issues. And for target population, the app is intended for individuals with heart conditions, such as those diagnosed with AFib, as well as older adults who are at higher risk of heart problems. It can also be used by fitness enthusiasts who want to keep track of their heart health. We'd want to describe the methods for how the watch works, what technology is used, and what specific health metrics it tracks. In our case, we could say the smartwatch is equipped with optical sensors that use photoplethysmography to measure heart rate by detecting blood volume changes in the wrist. It also has electrodes for taking ECG readings. Furthermore, if we know this technology follows a standard or processes data, it's good to mention information on that. This could sound like, the app processes the sensor data using advanced algorithms present in existing cardiological monitoring equipment to detect irregular heart rhythms and calculate health metrics. The data is then displayed on the smartwatch and synced with the user's smartphone for detailed analysis. For mode of action, we might write, the app continuously monitors the user's heart rate and rhythm, providing real-time feedback and alerts if any irregularities are detected, and provides personalized health insights to the user. For example, if the app detects an irregular heart rhythm, it may suggest the user consult a healthcare professional. We'll also need to state information on traceability of the product. Each smartwatch is assigned a UDI, which includes a device identifier and a production identifier. The DI is a fixed code that identifies the specific model of the smartwatch, while the PI includes information such as the serial number, batch number, and manufacturing date. As for information to be supplied by the manufacturer, this would include labels and instructions for use, which must be provided in the languages accepted in the countries where the app is available. For instance, if the app is sold in multiple European countries, the instructions must be available in all relevant languages to ensure users understand how to use the app safely and effectively. Annex 2 of the MDR and IVDR also specifies the need for manufacturers to document how the device's design and manufacturing processes ensure compliance. For a smartwatch app that detects irregular heartbeats, this means providing detailed evidence of how the app's algorithms accurately and reliably detect irregularities based on and compared with the known behavior of a normal human heart. Validation includes conducting clinical studies and tests to demonstrate the app's performance under real-world conditions, while verification involves rigorous testing to confirm that the app meets all specified requirements. To do this, detailed descriptions of each stage of the design process and the development methods used is documented and expressed using a risk-based approach. A thorough analysis on the design inputs and requirements that the device must fulfill should be done with key stakeholders and potential users. This could even include regulatory bodies. Based on these requirements, a concept design is evaluated, leading to a series of prototypes or mock-ups of the product. This allows designers to explore the user interface and make adjustments to the design before the technical specifications are written. It is in this last design phase that the technology is selected and details the various integrations or interfaces the device should support. This will be used by the developers as the roadmap for building the product to ensure it is safe and effective and also compliant. You should outline the different development methods you used, mention the coding standards, and testing protocols along with all of the steps taken to ensure data security and user privacy. This is very important in the EU, as the app must comply with the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, with policy to inform users on how their data is collected, used, and protected. This should be documented as part of the software development lifecycle and include an ongoing support plan for how you intend to provide continuous support and bug fix updates throughout the product's lifetime. You will also need to clearly state where design and development occurs and who has been involved. This would be the headquarters office, as well as any remote offices or partner facilities engaged in the development. Be sure to describe what role each site has, the people involved, and the tasks performed there. Risk management is a tool we use to aid our decision processes when developing a new medical device. It is a systematic process that involves identifying, evaluating, controlling, and monitoring risks. It helps us be objective in our evaluation of safety for our design, while clinical evaluation can help us measure effectiveness. When considered together, this is called the benefit-risk analysis. This involves weighing the potential benefits of a medical device against its associated risks. The MDR mandates that all risks must be reduced as far as possible without adversely affecting the benefit-risk ratio. This ensures that the clinical benefits of the device outweigh any residual risks, thereby safeguarding patient safety and device effectiveness. Risk-based thinking extends beyond safety to include usability, biocompatibility, data security, and other factors. It involves identifying hazards, assessing potential impacts, and implementing controls to mitigate risk. Under the MDR, manufacturers are required to establish and maintain a comprehensive risk management system. This system must be integrated into the manufacturer's quality management system, our QMS, and continuously updated throughout the device's lifecycle, including post-market surveillance. ISO 14971 is the international standard that provides a framework for risk management specific to medical devices. It outlines the steps necessary to identify hazards, estimate and evaluate risks, control these risks, and monitor the effectiveness of the controls. In risk assessment, we use available information on our own or previous or similar devices to identify characteristics associated with safety or harmful conditions. We want to identify what could go wrong, or how could someone get hurt by using our device or using our device incorrectly. We should consider if there is a sequence of events or situations where faults might occur. We then want to identify what risk control measures could be available to us to address these situations. This could be design concepts or instructions to user to clarify ways to safely operate the device. It could also be done by restricting access to the device through contraindications in our labeling. We will need to be able to verify and validate the risk control to prove its effectiveness. In risk evaluation, we describe the risk as a combination of the severity of the harm possible and the probability or chance of it occurring. We often plot these risks on a chart and use it to set acceptance criteria for each individual risk. This will be our ruler for measuring and determining what we consider safe or not. In risk review, we bring all the elements together and compare the classified risks identified against our risk control measures implemented. We look to see that after the risk control measures are applied, we are confident that our design does not include any unacceptable risks. We will need to document and provide justifications for our analysis and any decisions made around risk management for our device. We must always be collecting and evaluating data to capture new risks that might arise over time and to perform updates on our existing risk profile as product matures on the market. We should consider the clinical evaluation implications for any changes to the product we do and the risk management process supporting it. Risk management is a continuous process throughout the device's lifecycle and involves ongoing evaluation at every stage. This helps in making informed decisions and ensuring robust product safety. By implementing a robust risk management system and conducting thorough benefit risk analyses, manufacturers can ensure their devices meet regulatory standards and provide significant benefits to patients. The General Safety and Performance Requirements, GSPR outlined in Annex 1 of the MDR and IVDR, is another resource that supports manufacturers to ensure medical devices are safe and perform as intended. These requirements cover various aspects of device design, manufacturing, and performance. Devices must be designed and manufactured to ensure they do not compromise health and safety, and they must perform as intended under normal conditions of use. Manufacturers must implement a risk management system to identify and mitigate potential risks, ensuring the safety of materials and substances used in the device. Devices that are in touch with the body must minimize the risk of infection and microbial contamination, and those incorporating medicinal products or materials of biological origin must ensure compatibility and safety. The design must also consider environmental interactions, protection against radiation, and the reliability of electronic programmable systems and software. Clear labeling and instructions for use are essential to ensure safe and effective use. Finding your way through the regulations can be tricky. Luckily, harmonized standards are there as a roadmap to help manufacturers comply with the GSPR and Annex 2 requirements. These standards offer detailed guidelines and best practices for device design, manufacturing, and performance to validate and verify solutions for safety and performance. For instance, ISO 13485 covers quality management system requirements, which we discussed earlier, while ISO 14971 focuses on risk management, where manufacturers should identify and evaluate risks, showing how they are managed throughout the product lifecycle. In our smartwatch example, this could be evaluating the impact of false alerts or missed detection on the user. What is the worst that could happen if it occurs, and how likely is it to happen? Is there anything we can do to prevent or reduce the risk level? As an output for our file, we'll need to create a risk analysis for our device where all identified risks are evaluated and have controls in place to bring these risks to acceptable risk level compared to the benefits our device provides. Note, though, that this doesn't mean the risks cease to exist, just that the benefits of the device are more important or necessary for the user and worth the risk. We are the ones tasked to determine the benefit-risk analysis for our product based on our expert knowledge and awareness of the product and use environments, but we must also be sure to justify and document our analysis and rationales within the QMS. When it comes to product verification and validation, this information should be captured in the clinical evaluation for our device. ISO 14155 can guide you on what is expected here. For this part of our technical documentation, we'll want to show all the tests and studies conducted to ensure our product meets the safety and performance standards. In our example, this would mean data from software testing and clinical validation studies demonstrate the app's accuracy and reliability in detecting irregular heartbeats. We will include preclinical and clinical data, with test results and clinical evaluations reports signed and released. Getting a product to market and keeping it there is clearly a lifetime commitment, at least as far as the product technical documentation is concerned. One of the major updates introduced in Europe with MDR is the necessity for manufacturers to conduct regular post-market surveillance on their devices. This means routinely monitoring and documenting all information on how the device is being used and performs in the field. This information becomes part of a data collection consisting of user feedback, clinical data or findings, incident reports and corrective actions or updates made. And when doing this, you might discover specific situations where you need to collect new clinical data, which you can initiate as part of ISO 14155 compliance. But it isn't just your own device you should consider. Devices of a similar nature or that utilize similar technologies may also be of interest, and this additional data can sometimes be used to support or justify decisions for action or inaction by a manufacturer. Annex 3 outlines in detail the new requirements to be included in the technical documentation to comply with MDR. Using our smartwatch app as an example, let's dive deeper into this area. It all begins with a plan. The PMSP outlines how data will be collected to monitor the app's market performance. It ensures documentation control and follows data procedures in the QMS. Methods include gathering user feedback, complaints, and clinical studies data. For our example, it details how feedback on false alerts will be collected to identify issues. The PMSP must include data on serious incidents. This includes any adverse events reported by users and the corrective actions taken in response. For example, if the app fails to detect a serious heart condition, the documentation should detail the incident, the investigation conducted, and the measures taken to prevent it from happening again. This should be linked to the incident reporting and corrective and preventive actions elements of the QMS. Document all non-serious incidents and any unwanted side effects. Follow the complaint handling and risk management procedures within the QMS. This includes minor issues reported by users, like occasional false alerts that aren't a major health risk, and the steps taken to resolve these issues. The documentation should include trend reports that analyze data over time to identify any emerging patterns. This follows data analysis and continuous improvement protocols within the QMS. For example, if there is an increase in the number of false alerts reported during a certain period, this trend should be recorded and examined. All feedback from users, distributors, and importers must be recorded. This includes complaints or improvement suggestions. For example, if users find the app's alerts hard to understand, this feedback should be documented to enhance the user interface. Include any relevant information from specialist literature, databases, and registers to support market surveillance and benchmarking activities within the QMS. This might involve reviewing recent studies on similar heart monitoring apps to compare performance and find potential improvements. The PMSP needs a process to collect information proactively and systematically. This ensures proper data collection and performance monitoring within the QMS. It should help understand the app's performance and compare it with similar products. For instance, the plan should explain how data on false alerts and missed detections is collected and analyzed. It's important to have effective methods in place to assess data within the QMS. This supports data assessment and risk management activities. Use suitable indicators and thresholds to continuously reassess benefit-risk analysis. For example, if we set thresholds for acceptable false alert rates and take action if these are exceeded. The PMSP should include methods and tools to investigate complaints and analyze market-related experiences, aligning with complaint investigation and trend analysis protocols within the QMS. This involves managing events subject to trend reporting, such as establishing statistically significant increases in the frequency or severity of incidents. For example, if there is a spike in false alerts, the cause would be investigated and corrective measures implemented. The QMS must include methods for clear communication with authorities, notified bodies, economic operators, and users. This ensures all relevant parties are informed about issues and actions taken. For example, if a major issue arises, the findings and actions should be shared with regulatory bodies and users. The PMSP must have clear steps to find and start the right actions, like fixing problems and keeping records in the QMS. You need good tools to track and identify devices needing fixes. For instance, if a software update is needed to correct a bug that triggers false alerts, the update process should be documented, and all affected devices should be updated. Next, we have the Post-Market Clinical Follow-up Plan, or PMCF. This document is described in Annex the 14th Part B of MDR to outline ongoing clinical evaluation activities to monitor the device's performance and safety in the real world. Not all devices may require one. However, a justification for why it is not applicable must be included in your technical documentation to explain why it is not done. You will still need to have a PMS plan, however. Rationales against a PMCF plan could be made for certain low-risk devices where the already planned post-market surveillance is deemed adequate, as well as devices based on well-established technology with a long history of safe use, or for devices where there is already a significant amount of clinical data that demonstrates the device's safety. Along with your plan, the technical documentation must also include the first revision of the Summary of Safety and Clinical Performance for Medical Devices, known as the SSP for IVDs, if applicable for your risk class. For the smartwatch app, this might involve continuous monitoring of user data to ensure the app accurately detects irregular heartbeats over time. Last, we have the Periodic Safety Update Report, or PSUR. Manufacturers of Class 2A, 2B, and Class 3 devices, as well as custom-made devices, are required to prepare and update PSURs regularly. This report summarizes the results and conclusions from the PMS data, including any corrective actions taken, findings from post-market clinical follow-up activities, and an assessment of the benefit-risk balance. For the smartwatch app, this would involve summarizing the data collected on its performance, any safety issues identified, and the steps taken to address them, ensuring periodic review and regulatory compliance as part of the QMS. In addition to the manufacturer's responsibilities, there are other roles defined in the regulations to ensure technical documentation is compliant with MDR IVDR. Article 11 outlines the responsibilities of authorized representatives who act on behalf of the manufacturer in the EU market. They ensure that technical documentation is current and adheres to regulatory requirements, maintaining and providing access to all necessary documentation for regulatory review. Article 15 details the duties of the person responsible for regulatory compliance. This individual ensures that technical documentation meets all regulatory standards and remains up to date. They oversee compliance activities, including the maintenance of documentation, to guarantee the device's ongoing conformity with applicable regulations.